gon' take it there? Who gon' take it there? Who gon' take it there? Who gon' take it there? Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
So left-wing Twitch streamer Hasan Piker did an interview recently with French politician Jean-Luc Mélenchon. He is the leader of a leftist party in France that gained some ground in the recent elections and has been steadily gaining ground in the polls. He also has been steadily gaining ground in the polls for president. So he's ran for president multiple times and lost, but he's gaining support every time. And so what Hasan and him talked about was the similarities and the differences, the definitely glaring differences in the left movement in Europe and in France versus in America, and what the American left needs to do more of. So there were some interesting examples there, and I think some interesting examples of what this guy in particular and his party have done to gain some ground in France. So I just wanted to point a couple things out from this interview. Let's play this clip real quick.
Speaking of my home country, I feel like Americans, with the exception of nationalist movements, Americans are broadly blind to international solidarity. American left, in particular, has completely lost the internationalist tradition, whether it be a socialist one or even any sort of solidarity whatsoever. I would say neoliberals are united across the board. They coalesce around similar goals, and the right certainly is united as well in this growing movement of fascism, from the AfD in Germany to obviously the Nationalist Party here, to Elon Musk and Donald Trump and what they're doing in the United States of America. Do you see this as a new fascist wave growing internationally, and how can the American left work to combat this?
Ça, c'est la première chose.
First, yes, you're right about the American left. We ourselves had very big difficulties to reach out and to meet with Bernie Sanders. I met with him last time I was in the USA, but it was the first time, and before that we had great difficulties. We sent him letters, we tried to reach out, but nothing. They were only interested in what's happening in the USA and not international. We now have contact established with DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, for the reason that they are the only one that have shown an interest in us. But yes, there is a European wave of fascism. I can't speak about what's happening in Asia or Africa because I know less. But in Europe, yes, there is a fascist wave, and you have to really understand why. The east of the European Union is only former communist countries where all the social structures of the past have been destroyed. And in Western Europe, all social structures have been destroyed or are being destroyed right now because of neoliberal policies. And to face this, so there is big tension and big social agitation around this social structure being destroyed. And to face this, the right has produced the far right. Because the far right doesn't fall from the sky. It has been built, it has money, it has its media, so it has been really constructed according to plan, and the plan is to divide the people on racial basis, on religious basis, with the growing Islamophobia in Europe. You have to see the far right as a strategy of the dominating people. To win this fight against the far right, you have to work in order to gain popular trust. So we managed to gain popular trust in some sectors of our people, but for doing this you have to work. You don't have to only talk, you have to go door after door, you have to be in the fights with the people. And here the institutional left does nothing. It's not in the fight with people, it doesn't work. It does something similar to Kamala Harris did, so that doesn't speak to anyone. We have like a material proof of what I'm saying is that we see that the areas in France where we were door to door and where we had a big campaign for voter registration, it's also this area where the New Popular Front made its biggest scores, and it's in these areas that the election
So
was
a couple interesting things that they touched on here, one of them being the American left's lack of ability to do outreach properly and to, really canvass in the community, which is something that I want to get to in a second. Also, a lot of focus on neoliberalism here in this interview in general, and how neoliberalism is kind of the precursor to fascism, and it paves the way to fascism. And in the context of talking about a far-right resurgence in Europe, Jean-Luc says that, and the person who's talking there is his translator. Jean-Luc is the older guy. But he says that neoliberalism is essentially eating away at the social infrastructure of various parts of Europe. And it seems like what arises out of that in a quicker fashion seems to be the fascistic response as we see happening in America, rather than some kind of even socialist leaning movement that can properly address some of those economic issues. Instead, you see a reactionary far-right resurgence in the face of decaying of social infrastructure that we've seen before. But, in the far right's playbook, it is essentially comes down to blaming that on foreign migrants and on immigration, and any kind of isolated group of minority that you can, in order to clamp down on those social services and clamp down on social control in general, control of the border, etc., in order to create a more hostile environment toward anybody that's not considered to be whatever the national in-group of that place is. Whereas what you need is a focus on social services that are not reliant on capital. And for anybody who doesn't know what he means when he says neoliberalism, is he's saying that the strategy of tying social solutions to social problems, to capital and a profit motive, which has been the strategy of liberalism in the Western world for the past few decades, where, in order to compromise with capital, you create programs that supposedly will address social issues like drug addiction, or welfare in general, homelessness, housing, that sort of thing. And more of that property, real estate, opportunity gets handed over to private interests under the pretense that them pursuing a profit will be the most efficient way of solving that problem, because that is the logic of the capitalist market, that the most efficient way to organize resources is by pursuing a profit and having one executive be in control of how those resources are allocated. And so the applying of that logic to government is not only the strategy of politicians like Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Bill Clinton, but it also leads to the extreme form of capital takeover of government services that we now see with Elon Musk and Doge, where, the fundamental premise here is you take a private sector guy, a guy who is focused on profit motive, building companies, building wealth, and you apply that same logic, you have that guy apply his skill set to government in order to solve problems of government. And what you get is slashing, cost-cutting, firing people, laying people off, not attacking the fundamental ways that money is wasted or insider traded, like through the military-industrial complex, but instead cutting costs around the margins by cutting out people's lives, cutting out essential services, cutting out USAID and killing thousands of kids overseas, and applying these algorithms, whatever the systems that he's running all of our data through, in order to create like a database that tracks, migrants, mentally ill people, I'm sure, anybody who's committed some kind of crime or is of interest to the state because of things that they've said on YouTube, for example. So all of these, it's a product of neoliberal solutionism, which is if you get private sector guys to solve some of these public sector problems with social services not addressing needs as broadly as they need to, not being built to accommodate as many people as they need to because it's so slow. It's such a slow process to pass laws to that effect. So that leads to people becoming frustrated with the system. And then they see that people like Barack Obama and Joe Biden and the neoliberals of Europe are the ones who built those systems. And so they become frustrated at that system, and they turn to somebody who says that they are going to take a weed whack or a chainsaw to all of that, whatever you want to call it, bureaucracy, etc. However, all that those far right guys really want to do is zero in on the most draconian and totalitarian parts of that neoliberal system and optimize it for that. Once again, using profit as a motive, and strip the government for parts even further, so that you can clamp down on the groups of people that you don't like. And that's exactly what we are seeing and are going to continue seeing in America as any data and information that comes from the state apparatus gets applied through companies like XAI and Palantir as a means of surveilling, finding, stalking, and perhaps fucking with various people that the state doesn't like. So the other interesting thing that he said there that is undeniably true is that the American left, even referring to people like Hasan Piker and people to his left, have not done a good enough job of community outreach, and he essentially compared the state of the real American left, you could call it, or further left than the Democratic Party, to the failures of the Democratic Party itself, and Kamala Harris's failure to be engaged with the community enough to win over that community trust in very crucial areas, basically led to her losing to somebody who has more of a reputation in those areas. And again, that reactionary response to the dissolving of services that these people in these swing states are seeing, that reactionary response happens faster and it fills the space faster. And what Kamala Harris is offering is not enough to fill that space. And the same could be said for the American left. We're not offering enough, and we're not doing it in a community-based enough way, meaning engaging with people's lives on their own levels so that they think of you, people in the community think of you and your political party, whatever it is, whether it's DSA or something else, something less explicit, whatever, they think of you as somebody that helps them and is in the fight with them, as he puts it here in this interview. And I think that that's very, very crucial. And something I've been thinking about lately is the idea of just kind of being in society in various ways, like, filling various spaces in the community, not in a politicized way, but bringing your politics with you, to essentially take up more space, not just in the political realm, but in sort of the social fabric. And unfortunately, we're seeing the same thing happening on the right, again, much faster. They are filling up space in the community and the social fabric in a way that is normalizing literal fascism very rapidly. And so I think it's unsustainable. However, you know, America's a big place and it's spreading on a very grassroots level. And so we have to combat that with being a part of our community socially in as many ways as possible, and also in a way that provides positive value to the community in a non-political way, but also in a way that people understand is tied to your political ethic. And I think maybe that's how, you know, we can start to gain some ground in some of those more crucial communities. And so whatever it is that your cause is, whether it's some kind of Labor Party or DSA or, you know, the local Democrats, whatever it is that you feel is the best place for you to apply yourself, do that, and do it in a holistic way. Bring it into as many different vectors of your life as you possibly can. Again, not to politicize it, but to make it clear that you're one of the helpers and to show people what that looks like, hopefully. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you really want to support, consider becoming a member. That's the best way to support this channel. Posting all kinds of content there, like book reviews, movie reviews, music. If you like the beats that play in the back of these podcasts, all of that's posted there. Plus my EPs. I just dropped a new EP called Dead Internet Theory. That's available on all streaming platforms, and that was available first for members only. So if you want access to that, become a member. And if there's other stuff that you'd like to see as members only content, let me know and we'll figure some things out.